You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
Connor Garland says he is public enemy number one in Edmonton. Who responds the bulk of Oilers fans? Let's get into it with the lead. Welcome into Oilers Nation Every Day. The show is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Cody's in the chat. 12 right on time, fellas. You are dang right. And we are also coming to you live from the Sports Closet studio. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca, and stay tuned for later in the show when we'll be giving away a $50 GC, courtesy of our friends at the Sports Closet. We're doing a little at-home show today because I'm about to hit the road and head out to the Fairmont JPL for our annual pond hockey tournament with Tourism Jasper. But that doesn't mean Liam's not here. Where is he? Where's that little rascal? Oh, you're at your home studio. Well, you should have done the Chris Collinsworth. Should have slid on in.
My chair isn't on one of those plastic things, so it would have been tough on the carpet.
That's fair. That's fair. People in the chat saying I got a fresh cut. I didn't get a fresh cut. I shaved. So there's that. Glad to know that my facial hair, I guess, is noticeable now. When I shave, people notice.
You're growing up right in front of us with
Yeah.
your facial. I did not shave because I'm a lazy boy.
You haven't shaved, at least that mustache. What are we going on here? 16, 18 months?
Oh, no. I think we're past 2 years.
We're past 2 years.
Yeah. I did it for November one year. Maybe we are just approaching 2 years. I can't remember. But yeah, it's been a while. It's part of me now.
Fair enough. Liam, I did say I'm going on a bit of a road trip today, and I wanted to give some love to our road trip partner at the Nation Network. It's Turo. Turo is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace where you can rent the perfect car for wherever you're going from a vibrant community of trusted hosts across Canada, flying in from afar or looking for a car down the street, searching for a rugged truck. Big lifted kit truck or something smooth and swanky. You can skip the rental car counter and choose from an extraordinary, totally unique selection of nearby vehicles shared by local hosts. We want to thank Turo for supporting the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament this weekend and helping with transportation of the event. As you know, I'll be firing up the Nation truck. I got it cleaned out, went and gassed her up today. I'll be ready to roll. I'll be hitting the road in my big F-150 from our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. But our out-of-town guests, our friends like Jeff Merrick or Elias from our sales department in Toronto, they'll be relying on Turo. So a big shout out to Turo for making this weekend possible. Tomorrow, I'll be doing the show from a nice suite at the a cabin at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. Tomorrow night is our Oilers Nation versus Flames Nation game as well. So that should be a heated affair between the two sides. But let's talk about what is going on around the Edmonton Oilers right now. Liam, it is a Sherwood Ford Giant game day for the Oil as they're once again taking on the Vancouver Canucks. David Quadrelli is going to swing by in a little bit on the Star Mechanical guest line and tell us a little bit about the Canucks perspective of this game. But I wanted to ask you my Sherwood Ford Giant game day question, Liam. Do you think we'll see any animosity tonight? And Aaron, throw a poll in the chat. Do you think we'll see a fighting major in tonight's hockey game?
I think even without the incident, this is already like a high temperature affair. So yeah, I'll say yeah. I think the odds are probably greater than most games. So I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think Garland will get in a fight, to be honest. I can't even think who maybe would on the Flames. Everyone keeps saying Flames in the chat for some reason. The Canucks. So I'll say yeah. Maybe who do you think would get in a fight? Do you think it'll be someone unusual or maybe just like a Perry or a Nurse or someone like that?
So I got Connor Garland at 3 fights in his NHL career. He back in 2022 in November, he fought Jonathan Marchessault, another small guy. In February of 2024, so 11 months ago, he fought Brandon Tanev, another small guy. And then in October of this year, he also fought Eric Halla, who is, again, Liam, a pretty small guy. So who are the candidates if we were to follow his sort of history that could potentially step up and drop the mitts with one Connor Garland? I think Matthias Janmark is a likely candidate. I think Victor Arvidsson maybe is another guy, or Troy Stecher, who we saw get in a fight this season. But really, the fact I've said Connor Garland's name this many times, it's honestly more than I've said it since the beginning of the week, Liam, when this whole thing went down. And I do think it was kind of funny, and we'll talk with Quads about this. The narrative coming out of Vancouver that the Oilers are whining about something, they're not whining about Connor McDavid's cross-checking suspension. At least I'm not. At least I think a lot of sane Oilers fans aren't. They're using this as a chance to amplify an argument that Connor McDavid does not get the calls he deserves, and star players in general don't get the calls that they deserve. And then for, Garland to sit there and be like, oh, public enemy number one, and Rick Tocchet is sitting there being like, I don't know why he's public enemy number one. You don't know why he's public enemy number one because he's not a public enemy in Edmonton. And here's the quote from Garland, courtesy of our guy, Jeff Patterson. I do not care. I just try to play each and every day and put forth a good effort. Whatever happened, happened. I didn't hurt him or slew foot him. I guess they're upset about the hold. I didn't try to injure him. Whatever comes with that, comes with that. And let me be abundantly clear here. Connor Garland did really nothing wrong outside of commit a 2-minute holding infraction in this whole thing. My beef is with the officials in this whole thing and with Tyler Myers, who I think should have gotten more than 3 games. So again, I don't think there's going to be, I would vote no on the poll. I don't think Garland's going to drop the mitts with anyone. I don't think we'll see a fight in general. I think the narrative from these two sides will be go out there and play hockey. And if you're the Oilers, you don't want to be losing 3 games in a row. Go pump them. Pop 6 on them tonight. Who cares?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a narrative just outside of Edmonton that we're all upset with that we're upset with the suspension. And I don't think, obviously people are pissed off that McDavid's suspended for 3 games, but it's not about that. It's about why it happened and all this kind of stuff. And this thing is really blown out of proportion. But I think when you have an incident with the best player in the league, things are obviously going to go a little nuclear in some perspectives of it. So it's been an interesting kind of week of all this discussion. One thing that is just not discussed, and maybe a reason why the Oilers would want something to happen tonight, is the fact that Evan Bouchard was the one cross-checked in the mouth. Maybe they go out and actually defend him, because again, Connor McDavid's actions of cross-checking Garland in the face are you can't do that stuff. That's not what anyone's talking about. But the other side of it is Evan Bouchard, your best defenseman, was just absolutely chopped in the mouth the other day, and no one did anything because no one, if you can see in this picture, no one really saw it. So it's I could see it being for that people respond, not for the McDavid incident.
That's fair. 60% so far over in our poll question say yes. Our Sherwood Ford Giant question, as always, brought to you by our friends over at Sherwood Ford and the Nation Valet Service. Never visit the dealership again for your car service. A totally free service that Sherwood Ford the Giant offers to anyone. Don't even have to have bought your vehicle at Sherwood Ford. Doesn't have to be a Ford. Routine maintenance. They'll come pick up your vehicle, drive it to the dealership, do the work, and drive it right on back. Do I see Jay is in the chat? He says, Liam, your hair looks amazing. Also, his YouTube profile picture is a TNN logo. Very on brand, Jay. Very
always nice. On brand. Yeah. You got a new hair gel yesterday.
That is fair.
I brushed my hair when I came into the show with my fingers. Aaron and Tyler can vouch for that.
A couple super chats to get to really quickly. Liam Lance is in with $2. Calgary sucks. That is a good use of your $2, Lance. Surprised it didn't say cup year. Reminder, all of our super chats are in support of the Ben Stelter Foundation. Duran is in. Man, he's always dropping in the super chats. We love you, Duran. People saying that we are whining to get him special treatment are daft. By the numbers, he gets negative special treatment. Let's effing go. Call the game as it should be called and play La Bamba. I am with you on that, Duran. We are not asking for Connor McDavid to get penalties made up on him. We are not asking for the Patrick Mahomes treatment, to throw that out there as an example. All we are asking for is that the refs hold a standard and stick to that standard. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that one. But I appreciate the comment, Duran. Lance, I've never brushed my hair. Thank you for admitting that, Lance. We'll get to David Quadrelli in a little bit here, Liam. But first, why don't we do our game notes? Because I think this is going to spout us into some pretty interesting conversations just based off what you and I each have written down as, call it, notable things ahead of this game. Our game notes are brought to you by Yeti. Crave the cold, extend your ice time with hard-hitting gear that's built to honor the toughest sport on earth. # Crave the cold. Built for the wild. Can't wait to bring my Yeti mug with me out to Jasper this weekend. Game notes, Liam. You wrote a few down that I saw here, so I'll let you go first. Here, let's start. Calvin Pickard getting the start tonight. What do you make of that?
It makes sense. And Gregor kind of tweeted out the rotation they've been on. Skinner has not played 3 games in a row so far this season, basically no matter what, which is interesting considering you'd assume he just gets the absolute workload when the playoffs come around. So I wonder when that will actually start to change a little bit. But over his career, on an individual level, Pickard has been pretty good against the Canucks. He's only played them 3 times in the regular season. Obviously, we saw him in the playoffs last year and did really well. 917 save percentage and a 2.64 goals against. However, he has never beaten the Vancouver Canucks. He is 0-2-1 in his career. And I think another note, which is interesting considering who the Oilers play on Saturday, they did say, like, Tyler Palmer from the U of A Golden Bears was like called up to the Oilers to be their emergency goalie. And I know that happens every single game. There always has to be one there. But they even said on the broadcast, because they got it mistaken, that Palmer was on the bench because Pickard was sick. Pickard was actually on the bench. But if he was that sick, I find it interesting that he's starting today and not just being like, okay, we'll give you one more game. It's a big divisional game against Vancouver after everything that happened on Saturday too. Like, you play against Buffalo. I find that to be an interesting thing for tonight. What do you make of that?
I'm okay with it. There's a part of me that goes, I understand what Gregor's saying. Like, you don't want to mess with your rotation all that much. Also, you're staring down a potential 3-game losing streak. Oilers haven't lost 3 games in a row since the first 3 games of the regular season here when they started the year 0-3. So I don't know if I would have changed my rotation. Like, again, you have to have some element of trust in Calvin Pickard. And listen, Pickard's delivered you a lot of victories this season. So I do kind of respect Chris Knobloch for sticking with his rotation. I mean, like, hey, our goal, our plan was to not play Stuart Skinner 4 times in a row. We want to keep him as fresh as possible this year. So hopefully there aren't the playoff struggles that we've seen in the past. And as Cody says, you know, Picks has done his job and the Nucks are Skinner's kryptonite. There's nothing wrong with this. And I agree with that. Pickard has good numbers against the Vancouver Canucks, as you kind of wrote down here, Liam. I know he hasn't gotten a win in the regular season, but 917 save percentage, 264 goals against average. It's not his fault they haven't won those games. And if you go back to the playoffs, played great there as well.
The other big one, and I think this is huge, Zach Hyman is getting his bubble removed for today's game. He has played 16 games plus a period, I think it would have been. He had 5 goals and 6 assists with the bubble on, but the bubble is no longer, so we will get a different look at Zach Hyman tonight. I think that's the most crucial thing going into this matchup.
Yeah, so Bubble Hyman put up some pretty crazy numbers in that stretch. 16 games plus an extra 2 periods, correct?
I think I got that wrong. I think it's 1 period. I'm sure he just came in for the 3rd.
Okay, so 16 games and 1 period, yes. 11 points in that stretch for Zach Hyman, who is going to be ready to go and back to rocking a visor in this hockey game tonight. And hopefully that keeps the hot streak going, and hopefully Bouchard keeps the puck down because he nailed putt goals in the last game too. So I don't want to see that again.
No, yeah, it's avoid that in the where you show. Just get them all the way through. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair. What else do we got here for game notes? The Canucks made a couple of roster moves. Elias Pettersson recalled from Abbotsford. Elias Pettersson recalled from Abbotsford? What was he doing down there? It is easy to remember easy to forget. The Canucks have 2 players named Elias Pettersson. One of them is a defenseman that they took in the draft, I think 3 years ago in Montreal.
Yeah, 3rd round pick, I think he was, something like that. They also called up Linus Carlson, and Noah Juleson was retroactively put on IR today.
All right, there you go.
So I am curious to know what this blue line is going to look like for the Canucks. Like, as much as Tyler Myers is an impact of a player as McDavid, like, he still plays 20 plus minutes for this Canucks team. So they are probably more beat up about this than the Oilers maybe would. I know that sounds crazy because it's McDavid, but you can just replace McDavid with Draisaitl.
Yeah, the Oilers still have an elite centerman playing in this hockey game. They still have the best player in this matchup, even without McDavid. Listen, I think McDavid for Myers as a trade Canucks fans will definitely take, but I get where you're coming from, where like the absence of Myers does force them to really start scraping the barrel of their depth.
Yeah, like I think Mark Friedman played quite significant minutes the other day against Buffalo, and then that pairing obviously of Derek Forbert and Vincent Desharnais doesn't strike much fear into many people, does it? Like, the Oilers have a chance to expose them when some certain players aren't on the ice tonight. That's for sure.
Also with Elias Pettersson getting recalled, I saw a very funny meme, and it was like JT Miller walking into the room and seeing 2 Elias Petterssons, and it was that like still image of Tiger Woods like on all 4s when he hurt his back once, and it was just like, yeah, JT Miller having a rough one. This could be the last time we see JT Miller in this matchup, but we'll chat with that we'll chat with Quads about that in a little bit. I got a couple of numbers here on the Vancouver Canucks I wanted to talk about, Liam. They've been outshot in 4 of their last 6 games at 5-on-5, which is interesting because the Canucks this season have actually been pretty solid at preventing chances. 5th least 5-on-5 shots against per 60. The Oilers are 6th least. So these are actually 2 teams that have, for the most part, defended pretty well. And I know you and I aren't big fans of the expected goals for, expected goals against numbers because I do think they leave out a decent amount of context over the course of a large sample size, not like on a game-to-game basis. But when you look at 50-ish games, I do think they become more and more relevant. But with that, the Canucks actually have the 3rd best expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. So they're 3rd best expected goals against. The Oilers are 8th best. But when you look at each of those teams and where they rank in actual goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, the Canucks go from 3rd all the way down to 19th, and the Oilers only go from 8th to 11th. So based off the numbers, where they give up their chances, how many chances they give up, the numbers say the Canucks, with call it average goaltending, should have the 3rd best goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. They actually are 19th, which is crazy considering how good Kevin Lankinen was playing at one point this year. But that's kind of fallen off. It's fallen off a cliff for them. The Oilers one I find interesting considering the narrative behind their goaltending this season. And listen, Skinner was bad against Washington. I'm not going to say that he wasn't. He's got to get dialed back in. But the fact that the expected goals against per 60 for the Oilers is 8th best and they're 11th best in actual goals against, that gap only falling off 3 is surprising to me.
Yeah, it's not that significant. I think a big thing for Vancouver is just Demko has not been able to find his Demko form this season, whatever it is. I think he's at like an 870 so far this season in save percentage. Like, he's a big reason for that too. But yeah, I think it just shows that maybe the Oilers goaltending isn't as like bad as people make it want it out to be. I was looking too because a Wood guy on Twitter tweets out a lot of things about the Skinner goaltending. I believe he uses, is it Evolve in Hockey or Evolve in Puck or something like that? I actually wrote it down. So from October 10th to November 30th, Skinner had a goals saved above expected was minus 4.72. From December 1st to today, it's 3.48. So quite a switch around, really. Quite a switch around. So yeah, that back half of the season, I guess, from where we're at, so the last 20 or so games, Skinner has really been able to flip a switch. And even against Washington the other day, like we were talking about, like that second goal is the one you probably wanted back. Like I think his expected against was something like negative 0.4 or something weird like that. So it's not as bad as people make it seem.
Yeah, and Cody says, I'd be curious on what those stats look like since November 1st. And obviously they would look better in the case of the Edmonton Oilers. I think if you wanted, and maybe what Cody meant was like, how did the Oilers rank in terms of the expected goals against metrics since November 1st? I mean, I can pull those up for you really quick here. Since November 1st, the Oilers have the 7th least expected goals against per 60, and the actual goals against per 60, they fall to 16th. So the gap does get a little bit wider in that stretch. We got another super chat here to get to from Bob Stauffer, not the real Bob Stauffer, of course.
Maybe.
Garland's head on a stake tonight. LOL, just kidding. Like Lance said, beat him on the board. We had a solid games against a very good Caps team. Let's beat these guys tonight and throw some hits. I'm all for physicality. I just don't want to see the Oilers lose track or lose the plot here, right? Go pop some on the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Which brings me to another point I wanted to make here as we continue along with our game notes for our new friends over at Yeti. There have been 100, and this goes back to like a luck conversation. So like the Canucks last year, remember, they had that sky high PDO. They were first in the league in PDO. And if you don't know what that number is, it's your 5-on-5 save percentage and your 5-on-5 shooting percentage. And the thinking is that over a large enough sample size, that should always kind of come back to the middle. It should always come back to 100 at some point. Now, what we talked about the other day with Washington is like, hey, someone's got to lead the league in PDO. Someone's got to lead the league in shooting percentage. And are they lucky or are they just skilled? Because I do think goaltending, I mean, it obviously does, plays a big role in all of that. But the Canucks last season were first in PDO. They were also first in shooting percentage last year. They were scoring on a very high percentage of their shots, better than anyone else in the league. The Oilers were 15th. This season, the Canucks are still, despite the fact the results aren't coming for them, they still have the 6th highest 5-on-5 shooting percentage in the NHL. Do you want to guess where the Oilers are in 5-on-5 shooting percentage, Liam?
21st.
They are 26th in the
Damn it.
NHL in 5v5 shooting percentage. Now, since November 1st, that number is up to 14. But again, with the skill the Oilers have, the fact that they aren't top 5 for any stretch here, I think is pretty crazy. And I think it's part of the reason why they haven't been, again, despite the on paper deep forward group blue line that, as Tony Brar pointed out, is producing more offense than pretty much any other blue line in the NHL in terms of goals. They aren't blowing teams out a lot. There haven't been a lot of games this season, Liam, where it's like, whoa, every puck is going in right now. So I went ahead and I looked. Games this season where teams have scored 6 or more goals. It's happened 132 times in the NHL. So there's 32 teams in the league, 3, 6, 9, 12. Every team on average you'd think should have 4 of them, right? If you're looking at 132, and if it's just nights where pucks go in, if anything, if the average is 4, you would think the Oilers would have more than that, considering Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, Zach Hyman, the whole group that goes into it.
They
Do you
have
know off the
3.
top of your head how many times the Oilers have scored 6 or more goals?
3. Minnesota, Vancouver, New York.
So they've actually done 7-goal games. It's happened twice. It's been Vancouver and
7 goals,
Minnesota in that stretch, and then the 6-goal games. They have 3 of them. They did it against Vegas, which I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
Vegas. I think there's an empty netter in that game though, right? I don't remember.
I don't remember, to be honest.
And then they did Columbus and New York. So they're one ahead of kind of what the league average is, even though they're 26th in shooting percentage. And all of this is to say, I feel like we're due for a couple of blowouts. Because again, I think the Oilers are due for a stretch where they have a top 5 shooting percentage in the NHL, and we don't just get one. And hey, Original Pozar drops in a good comment. Looked earlier today, Edmonton is 7th in overall shooting percentage over the last 7 games. Last game notwithstanding, they're trending the right way. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. They're trending the right way. I think, man, we know what they've been able to do in the past on home ice. I think they're going to be able to go on a run here where there's more than a few games where we're like, holy shit, everything is going in. And when that happens, I do think the goaltending conversation will get a little bit quieter too, because they'll just win games 6-2, 6-3.
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at their schedule, they have one of the weakest schedules for the back half of the season too. So that should lead to some bigger wins, especially once the deadline kind of comes and goes. I think they play Anaheim and San Jose, just off the top of my head, at least a couple of times each after the trade deadline. So yeah, I could totally see that happening. But also too, like, as long as they win these games, I really don't even care what the score is at the end of the day. Just come away with 2 points, and all these stats, while they are important, I just think 2 points is the most important thing, and keep pushing for that first in the division. And that's just what I look for most nights. Like we talked about too, like they seem to struggle in a way against weaker opponents. I looked back a few weeks ago. This was before, I think this was after the Chicago game, and I haven't updated it since, but they were 9-1-0 against the bottom 4 teams from each conference. But the one thing that was kind of a recurring event was they kept pushing it to overtime. So I'd like to see that stuff go away. It's like, just get your regulation win sorted out and don't waste energy with an extra 5 minutes of overtime.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. McDoust, good point, Tyler. If our PDO gets better, it will make up for everything else. And again, that's kind of my point here, is that the Oilers, since November 1st, have been one of the best teams in the NHL, but it hasn't been because of luck. It's not like they've gone on their PDO heater quite yet, even though, as OP said, last 25 games, apologies, the Oilers have been trending in the right direction. Let's keep the comments going, Liam, because I think there's a couple interesting ones in there. The YouTube chat brought to you by our friends at Odd Company and the all-new Nation Beer Everyday Lager, a crisp, clean lager crafted not just for game day, but for every day. Can't wait to be crushing a few of those in the mountains this weekend. Okay, let's just get this one out right out of the gates. Doug Waite, Tyler, legit question. So if it's legit, I got to answer it. Would you do Jeff Skinner, Kane, and a first for JT Miller? Why would Vancouver do that? Other one we got in here. If Klingberg pans out, will the Oilers still search for a better 4th or 5th defenseman, or could it shift the priority to a 3rd or 4th line center? So I think I get the question here. If Klingberg pans out, will the Oilers keep looking for more D-men, or will they shift the priority to a 3rd or 4th line center? So I think an important part of this, and I wrote a piece that kind of handles this. It'll go up at Oilers Nation some point in the next 48 hours here. But when you look at the Oilers draft picks, Liam, no 1st rounder this year, no 4th and 5th rounder this year. So they have a 2nd, a 3rd, a 6th, and a 7th this year. Next year, they have one pick in every single round. Year after that, they have one pick in every round except for the fourth, right? So no first rounder this year, I think, is pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
If Klingberg pans out, I think the assets they probably look at moving, they'll trade one of their second and thirds this year. I think they'll trade one of their second and thirds next year, and maybe like a lower end prospect. Maybe not an Akey or an O'Reilly or a Savoy, obviously, but whoever's in sort of that next rung down. I think that's the assets that Stan Bowman could potentially play with here. Now, there was a part of me that thought earlier they're going to make one trade, and that one trade would have been, I think, something along the lines of what Dallas ended up paying for a guy like Chris Tanev at last year's deadline. Chris Tanev went from Dallas to, sorry, when was Chris Tanev dealed? What deal am I thinking of?
Last year it was Dallas for a second round pick.
Yeah, okay, for a second round pick. For some reason, his hockey DB doesn't have that deal listed in there. But anyways, it was a second round pick. So I was like,
because it was a 3-way trade. That's
correct. But that's kind of where I thought they would be maybe aiming, right? Not like a top pairing guy, but like a good second pairing guy. It's not going to be Ekholm-esque. It's probably going to be a rental, but they'll do it by giving up a second and a third, or a second and a prospect or something like that. Where I think the Oilers will kind of be at if Klingberg pans out is they'll maybe dangle like the third or the fourth for another piece of depth on defense. And then they'll dangle a second or a third and try to get another good bottom six player. Maybe it's a Trent Frederick. Maybe it's someone else who can play center. I know you're big on Jason Dickinson, but I think they'll still spend, and I hope this is making sense the way I'm kind of ranting about this. I think they'll still spend the same total sum of assets, but I just think they might more evenly spend on forward and defense versus pushing all of their kind of chips into just getting a big name defenseman. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of think similarly, to be honest, but it really does all hang on how John Klingberg does. And I wouldn't judge him the first couple of weeks, to be honest. I think as maybe even after the Four Nations, I know there's only a small gap there, but he doesn't have a lot of time to really showcase what he has, which makes the Oilers' plans very interesting. But the market's just weird. Like we spoke about it with Frank yesterday. There's so many teams that don't want to be like legit sellers, and they all want these other pieces. So the Oilers really just need some teams in the East to start falling off here. Like Trent Frederick would be fantastic, but is Boston going to give up? Like Don Sweeney's like clawing for his life over there, right? Like trying to keep his job. So I don't really know what they're going to do fully, but yeah, I think adding another defenseman isn't totally out of the question. But again, like I really do think they need to add to the forward group. I just don't think having the inconsistencies of like Mark and Henrique in the lineup every single night in the playoffs is something that's a recipe for complete success.
Yeah, people saying Matthew Olivier. I don't know if I love Matthew Olivier.
They're also in a playoff spot.
Yeah, and Columbus, I think, wants to keep him. I think Trent Frederick, he's quickly becoming one of my favorite potential targets this year at the deadline. I also think if you're just going to spend a little bit and you're not interested in giving up even a third rounder, if St. Louis falls out of it, I wonder about Oscar Sundqvist. I believe that's a player they've had interest in the past. 1.5 million, one more year after this one. Right shot, comes with some size, plays physical. Like, again, if you're looking for lowercase ads, and I'm starting to think the more we go on here, just reading the tea leaves, I don't think we're getting an A-level ad this year for the Oilers. I think we'll get a B and a C. And is the B going to be a forward, or is the B a defenseman? And then is the C the forward, or C is the defenseman? If it's Trent Frederick, like that's a B for me, that kind of level of a deal, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I thought you were expanding on that a little bit. But
No,
yeah, I would agree. I just think the A guy isn't out there. Like, who is it?
Me too.
You know, like he's just the Oilers aren't there for it right now. And maybe it's Rasmus Anderson, but I really can't get an idea of what anyone wants to do there. And by the sounds of it from Flames Nation, the Calgary Flames want a lot for him, and I just don't think he's worth it. So I think adding maybe a little lower down the lineup is just kind of the better, like you said, like maybe like a B-level guy.
Yeah, and Oscar Sundqvist, I guess, would be more of like a C-level fit if we're continuing along with that analogy. And listen, I see like you need an A. What if they don't get an A and don't win? Okay, but we did this, Liam, a couple of weeks ago, looking at past Stanley Cup champions. How often does a Stanley Cup champion make a move for an A? Did Florida make a move for an A? Like, again, the big move, like go look at some of the most impactful trades that have happened. Washington won the Stanley Cup. They picked up Michael Kempney for, what was it, a third or a fourth?
Something
And that
like
guy
that.
was unbelievable for them in the playoffs. Sometimes, and I love this line from Frank Saravalli, your goal at the deadline is to win Stanley Cups and not win press conferences. If you want to sit there and kind of have your chest all puffed out because on deadline day, you went and traded a first-round pick for the best rental on the market, it doesn't always work. Dallas got Chris Tanev for a second and a third last year. Still lost to the Edmonton Oilers. Vancouver went out, got Elias Lindholm last year. Bowed out early. They got Zadorov last year too. They totally loaded up and people were scared. Bowed out in the first round. 2 years ago, Columbus went and got Gavrikov. LA went and got Gavrikov and Korpisalo. Did it help them beat Edmonton?
Nope. No. We beat them again. Like we do every year, like we will this year. It's going to be awesome.
Again and again and again. Like, again, and Cody says we need to make a Handzus move. Exactly. Chicago went and got Michael Handzus. He played a massive role in them winning a Stanley Cup. Didn't need a first-round pick, and Dangerous Wade. We went and got Mike Green. Didn't help. But again, I mean, who knows? Maybe if the playoffs happen that year, Mike Green ends up playing a bigger role. But I do think we can't sit here, and I just wouldn't sit here and be expecting and holding my breath that a big deal for a first-round pick is coming. I think a fourth-line center who, like a good fourth-line center, I'm not just talking about like a waiver claim guy or like a Sam Carrick or whatever, a good fourth-line center who is physical and can give offense, and another defenseman. Whoever that defenseman is, I guess we'll see. But Russ makes another good point. Remember when the Rangers got Kane and Tarasenko?
Yeah, and that did not work out at all. I think the Oilers have a great fourth-line center in their system, and his name's Adam Henrique.
So you'd prefer they aim for a third-line center and push it down? I think top six,
either one,
is how I look at this Oilers team. Like, if you want, like, Henrique is in your bottom six, just get someone who can play maybe a bit of a different role, give you a bit more jam, maybe bring a bit more on the energy side of things.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. What do you make of someone just put in the chat that Michael McCarron as an addition? He would definitely bring a lot of physicality to the team that they lack. That is for sure.
He's a big boy. He's in Nashville.
900K.
Yeah, like, so that's probably your C-level move. He's a winger, so again, don't love that. Has some term on him though, right? One more year after this one, so maybe a piece who can stick around for a little bit. I don't mind that name either. Let's put the trade talk off to the side for a little bit here, Liam, and do our lineup report for tonight, brought to you by Booster Juice. Team Oilers Nation is powered by Booster Juice out at the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament this weekend. Delicious smoothies, delicious and nutritious smoothies, drinks and food, everything to get you powered through the day. Download the Booster Rewards app today. Sounds like the Oilers, they had a very, very light morning skate here. It was an optional, so it looks like the lineup is what was at practice yesterday. So you can go Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Arvidsson, Henrique with Perry and Hyman, Nuge with Janmark and Connor Brownlee. And we said our piece on the Janmark elevation over Jeff Skinner. I think both of us disagree. We don't get it, but we're probably wasting our breath to continue having that conversation. Noah Philp with Skinner and Kapanen is the fourth line for the Oilers, and I'm hoping Chris Knobloch plays them. Noah Philp didn't play a ton. I would like, if you're going to do this and you want to, again, find out if Noah Philp is a guy who can help you in the playoffs, you need to give him a chance. We did this with Holloway last year or in years past. Like, play the guy, give him an opportunity. I don't get playing him 8 minutes a game. Like, it's pointless. I want them to give Philp an opportunity, and I actually think this line can work.
Yeah, Knobloch spoke about it after the game too. I think it was Jim Matheson asked him the question. It's like, why did you bench Noah Philp? And he's like, I didn't bench Noah Philp. I just double shifted Leon Draisaitl through the middle with Perry and Kapanen. But honestly, I would do the same thing. If you're chasing a game, I'm sorry, but Noah Philp isn't helping you win as much as a Leon Draisaitl would. So I think it was more the third period where he didn't see a lot of shifts, but I think that's fine. But you have to play him for sure. Like, hopefully we can see him a bit more on the penalty kill and see what he's fully capable of. But if the Oilers want to see that happen too, they have to get out to a bit more of a comfortable lead.
All right, quickly, the Canucks lineup, then we'll get to the guest line. Elias Pettersson with Jake DeBrusk and Brock Besser is the first line. Both Besser and DeBrusk only have one goal in their last 10 games. JT Miller with Pius Suter and Connor Garland. Teddy Bluger with Kiefer Sherwood and Danton Heinen. Max Sasson with Phil DiGiuseppe and Nils Hoglander is expected to be the fourth line, according to Daily Faceoff. And the deep pairings, Quinn Hughes with Mark Friedman, Carson Soucy with Philip Hronek, Derek Forbert with Vincent Desharnais. And the expected starter tonight for the Vancouver Canucks, we mentioned the Oilers are obviously going with Pickard. Demko is still unconfirmed, according to Daily Faceoff. So there's your lineup report for tonight, brought to you by our friends at Booster Juice. One more comment, Liam, and then we'll get to the guest. Tom, he's a Canucks fan. He says Connor Garland owns the Oilers franchise. Connor Garland has played the Oilers 20 times in his career and has 5 goals in those 20 games. So
Whoa,
there you go.
that's scary.
Oh, Demko is confirmed per David Quadrelli. So nice tie-in to the Star Mechanical guest line, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more by visiting them online at starmechanical.ca. Residential, commercial, 24/7 emergency service. If you have an issue in your home with plumbing or heating, Star Mechanical can help you out. When you want to talk Vancouver Canucks, David Quadrelli can help you out. And hey, Quads, let's start with, like, it's been a weird week for all of us. This sort of Myers McDavid thing, Garland has ballooned into a massive story across the whole hockey world. What did you make of kind of the comments coming out of Vancouver from Tocchet and Garland about this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because, to be honest, and I don't know, maybe I got to be on Twitter more. I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever said that, but like I didn't really see much of it. I did see some Oilers fans and I did see some Canucks fans, and then it was like, then the player and the coach got asked about those few fans. To me, like from what I've seen I thought McDavid handled it really well. Draisaitl, same thing, like his first comment about protecting the star players. Like, I feel like that was more about what's happened this season with McDavid. Like, Leon Draisaitl's not like, we got to get revenge on Connor Garland because he held Connor McDavid. I don't know. I think it is water under the bridge. I think the players are kind of saying that as well. I don't think anybody really cares or is going to go out and try and hurt Connor Garland because he held down Connor McDavid. I think the bigger conversation, I think the one I've seen most Oilers fans having is just that, like, yeah, stuff isn't getting called on McDavid. And even if that one wouldn't have necessarily changed the outcome of a game because it was already a 6-on-5, I still think Oilers fans are allowed to be frustrated when things are going uncalled against their star player.
Yeah, and I don't think any Oilers fan is sitting here and saying like the cross-check was justified or anything like that. It's more of like hey, that was Connor McDavid's boiling point with everything that's happened so far this season. So let me ask you our Sherwood Ford Giant question today. Will we see a fighting major in this game tonight? If I gave you $100 if you got it right, are you saying yes or no?
I'd say no. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, so I'll tell you, it would be Vinny Desharnais that fights for the Canucks, okay? Is he going to fight any ex-Oiler? Like, which Oiler is dropping the gloves with Vinny Desharnais? I'll tell you, I was at the game when the Oilers were in town. Vinny was in the hallway chatting. I don't know exactly who he was chatting with, but like 3 or 4 Oilers in the hallway just chatting with Vinny after the game. Like, I don't know. Is anybody going to drop the gloves with Vinny Desharnais? I'm going to say no, and there's just no one else on the Canucks that's going to fight right now.
Yeah.
The only one would be Nurse, but I think the angle of it is so different than what people are given. I don't think it's redemption for McDavid. I think it's redemption for Bouchard. Like, that seems to be lost in all of this. That he just got a cross check to the mouth, and
okay, but Myers isn't on the ice tonight. So what are you talking about? Like, who's gonna? You know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe the next time they play, if Myers is on the ice, I see what you're saying. But tonight, I don't know. I don't know about tonight.
No, I agree, and it's not necessarily on the fight, but it's like, the Oilers released this dumb statement as if like Bouchard wasn't the one who just got it in his face and all this. And it's just kind of crazy. But just on Myers, like, how much do the Canucks actually miss him in the lineup? I feel like it's a somewhat significant loss for them too.
Absolutely. I mean, the Canucks decor has been dreadful this year, but he's been at the top of the dread. That's probably the nicest way I can put it. He's been probably their 3rd best defenseman this season, which is great news for Tyler Myers. Awful, awful news for the Vancouver Canucks. But I wanted to quickly touch on the decor that you guys were talking about. I don't know if they've skated this morning, so I don't know if it's out there yet. But Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, got called up yesterday. Mm-hmm. I am clamoring for this guy to get a game. I talked about it. The Canucks decor is dreadful. I so badly want to see Elias Pettersson get a game. He wasn't very good in the preseason. 20-year-old kid. We weren't expecting too much, but clearly out of his depth in the preseason. But I went down to Abbotsford this past weekend, and I've been watching him all season on the farmies over at Canucks Army. But I watched him in person, and when you get that in-person viewing, it really kind of shows you what you have in a player, in my opinion. And I am clamoring for this guy to get some NHL games. I don't think he's NHL ready. I don't think he's going to be phenomenal or anything like that right now, but I think he's going to be a really good NHL player one day, and I want to see him get that taste of the NHL right now. So I'm hoping that he gets in tonight. I don't know if there's been any news saying otherwise, but he got called up. I hope he gets in the lineup.
How does JT Miller feel about having two Elias Petterssons in the dressing room?
It's like that Star Wars meme that now there are two of them. Yeah, that was the first. That was the first thing everybody was joking around. And the funny thing is, like, two Elias Petterssons, or Elias and Elias. That's the only differential that we have. The back of Pettersson, the defenseman's jersey, says E. Pettersson. Like, that's the differentiator. It's like, why? Like, that he also has the same initial. But anyways, that's how we'll see them differentiated. I don't know if he's going to get in the lineup tonight. I just want to say that for all the Oilers fans watching this, that I really want to see him get in the lineup, because I'm sure they care a lot about Canucks prospects.
Last meeting of the regular season between these two clubs. I mean, a playoff meeting is certainly still a possibility, but let me just quickly ask you about JT Miller. Yeah, I know. Maybe not. Let me ask you about JT Miller. Give me a fill in the blank. There is a blank % chance that this is the last time we see JT Miller in a Canucks versus Oilers game.
Oh, like 80? Canucks versus Oilers? Yeah, like 80, 90. I don't know how you can go so far down the road of trading him where all these reports come out. Like, he is told that, hey, you're not going to play that game on Saturday night, and then they say, no, actually you are. Like, I'm sorry, you can't go that far down the road and then just keep a guy all season long and into the playoffs. And they might. I disagree with it. But here's the other thing, guys, is the thing we've been saying all season about any troubles that there's been with Pettersson, Miller, all this drama or whatever. The number one thing everyone says is, okay, well, as soon as you win, it all goes away. Okay, well, they haven't won, and they haven't started winning yet with any sort of consistency. So I don't know how it can get to this point where you're seeing reports of them getting really far down the road on a trade of JT Miller, and then you just say, actually, no, we're not going to do that. Like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle here. You've gone this far. You have to follow through now. And there's been a lot of reporting out there right now. I do think it's going to be the Rangers. I think Patrick Johnson put something out today saying that the Hurricanes' interest, although they do have permission to talk to Miller, who of course has a full no movement clause, their interest is minimal. And I really do think it's going to be the Rangers that ultimately go out and get him back.
Hey, let's do a little hypothetical trade then. Who would you like to see in sort of a dream scenario for the Canucks? Like, what would you consider a win if it's Miller going to the Rangers? What's coming back?
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing. To win a JT Miller trade, you need three things to happen. You need the players that you get back to turn out, or the assets that you get back to be flipped. Again, let's not forget they made the Horvat trade and then flipped that asset to go get Filip Hronek. So you need that. That's only one part of it, though, right? Like, I know traditionally when we look at trades, you're looking at that part. You need all three things to happen, and really, let's just bring it down to two, because I think the second thing is you get out of that contract and you gain some cap space, right? This team's about to have the Oliver Ekman-Larsson buyout on their books big time next year. I think it's $4.275 million or something like that. I know it's over $4 million. It's going to start hurting. So these guys I'm talking about, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Elias Pettersson, Tom Willander, they need those guys to hit. But if they don't hit, you're going to need to supplement some of these spots in your lineup, and you're going to need cap space to do that. You're obviously going to win the trade from a cap space perspective, right? Like, if you're not taking back Mika Zibanejad and deal with the Rangers, I think you win it from that perspective of, okay, we have cap space. But that doesn't make the trade a win. You need those other things to happen as well. So I think there's multiple parts of it when you look at a JT Miller trade. But ultimately, if you want me to make a package, like I like the Hedl, the first, and I know Ryan Lindgren was there, but that was more, I think, to make the money work. And maybe the Canucks like Ryan Lindgren, but I don't think they're looking at it saying, we're going to extend Ryan Lindgren. Maybe they are. I don't know. But I know they really like Braden Schneider. If it's a win for Vancouver from a assets perspective, it's a first, Hedl, and Braden Schneider, I think, in their minds at least. But I don't even know if that's enough, because what is Braden Schneider really? Like, I know the Canucks really like him, but to me, kind of another 4-5, which they've got a lot of. I know he's young, but
Frank thinks Braden Schneider might be one of the untouchables in New York.
Interesting. And I mean, that would absolutely track with everything we've heard. The Canucks have been trying for Braden Schneider for years. And yeah, if he's not, he also hasn't really been brought up in these trade discussions, other than people saying what I just said, that, yeah, the Canucks really like Braden Schneider, but that only means so much if the Rangers also really like Braden Schneider.
Yeah, I want to throw you, sorry, Liam, one more just on the trade front, because I tossed this idea out earlier in the week. It's my NHL 25 be a GM hypothetical trade, but you look at the New Jersey Devils, and what do they have a lot of? Right-handed defensemen. They love Kovacevic. They got Dougie Hamilton. They got Brett Pesce in their system. They have Casey and they have Nemec. Like, they have 5 guys who could be playing in the NHL right now. 2 of them could run their power play. They also have Luke Hughes to run their power play. Who says no? Dougie Hamilton for JT Miller straight up.
Oh man, that's putting me on the spot. Okay, what's Dougie Hamilton's cap hit? Do you have it off the top of your head?
9 million.
For how long?
I think he has at least 3 more years left.
He has 3 more years left. Yeah.
I'm gonna Canucks say no to that because and only because like I think a big part of this trade is the cap space component, and you just wash that completely out. I also think they probably value Miller higher than they would Dougie Hamilton.
That's fair. Liam?
Tyler, again, that trade doesn't make any sense to me, but I'll say it every time. There's too many Hughes brothers involved in all of this for that to work. My last question for you, Quads. Thatcher Demko, I think he came out today and said like he's not playing to the standards of what he's supposed to, and his save percentage is like 870 something. Like, what's going to happen with him this season? Obviously, the injuries have been a big part of it, but has there been any signs of him possibly coming around?
Yes and no. There's moments, but there hasn't been enough moments. And ultimately, like, look, like I'm no NHL goaltender, believe it or not, but he has talked about the timing, about being off for that long, how much that just makes it so difficult to come back. And I think that's what he's doing right now. It's been a split between him and Kevin Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen's sick right now. There was a flu bug going around the Canucks room, and Lankinen's gotten it the worst of anybody, is what I've been told. He's going to back up tonight, but he's... I think he would be starting if he was totally healthy enough, but he's not. So Kevin Lankinen's going to back up tonight. Something that Rick Tocchet said when I asked him about Demko and where his game's at is like, we've got to get him on a roll. We got to start getting him some games. So this is going to be Demko's 4th straight start. When he made 3 straight starts last game, that was just the 2nd time this season that's happened. So you want to get him some games. You want to just get him that experience of feeling the puck again. And ultimately, like, I think that's the move. I don't think you should be splitting starts between him and Lankinen at this juncture. I think your best chance at competing is having Thatcher Demko play like the Vezina caliber goalie we saw last year. So if he has some stuff to work through, let him work through that and let him try to get his game back. And I think the best way to do that is with game action. So yeah, it's been a tough road back for Demko, just even getting back, but now he's back. It hasn't gotten easier, and you're hoping that he's able to figure it out. He talked yesterday, or 2 days ago, excuse me, about how he's used to having the starters workload, which came across as him basically asking to get this run of starts that he's now getting. So I'm glad he's getting it, and again, if you're a Canucks fan, you're hoping that he's able to bounce back and figure it out. I think there's a bit of an adjustment period right now that he's gone through. Again, don't know if it's something to do with his knee and he's wanting to play around it. I don't think it's that, but it does seem like he's made a small tweak in his game, and we'll see if he can kind of work through it.
Quads, as always, man, appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the game tonight. Should be a good one.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, guys.
There you go. David Quadrelli, Canucks Army, Canucks Conversation, does it all out there with our friends over at CA on the Star Mechanical guest line. Let's get to our Bet365 Gameday Betting Challenge, Liam. It's about that time for our friends at Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Liam, don't look now. I am so close to being positive units here. I am on an absolute run right now. What am I at here? Minus 1.8. Woo!
Wow. So close, yet so far.
Fair. I'll be looking to close that gap a little bit more tonight, and I'm getting spicy for the first time in really 3-4 games here. Leon 3 shots, Bouchard 3 shots, over 5.5. Don't even need an Oilers win, just a couple of shot props and the over. Bouchard puts a lot of pucks towards the net. Last game, not a lot of them hit the net. I like that to change tonight. Draisaitl's been a beast with the shot prop. Over 5.5. Demko struggles. Pickard in net for the Oilers. I bet you we're getting 1 or 2 goals against at least. So my dream here, 4-2 Oilers win. Draisaitl and Bouch hit their shot props. Boom, my bet cashes plus 425. What do you got?
I just went with Ekholm point tonight. I think we could see him on the power play a little bit, so I like these odds. I could see them leaning on him a little heavier in certain moments too. So plus 140 for Ekholm, pretty good.
Not bad. K Ryan is in the chat. 2 for 22 whack betting. It's because
Wow.
Jay does stuff like this. A 10-1 parlay. Moneyline, Arvidsson goal, Hyman goal is what Jay is going with tonight, as he'll look to get himself out of the basement. Well, this won't even get him out of the basement, but it'll at least give him some positive momentum. So best of luck to Jay as he tries to nail a 10-1 parlay, courtesy of our friends at Bet365. Before we wrap up and get to our keys to victory for Sherwood Power Sports and Marine every game day, our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant give us some fast facts for the game. AB, let's give him a listen.
Tonight features 2 of the highest scoring defensemen in the league. In the last 2 years, Quinn Hughes and Evan Bouchard have both been in the top 5. Go Oilers!
Hey, Giant Mike here. Leon Draisaitl scored 9 goals in his last 10 games against the Vancouver Canucks. You could say he's really cleaning up.
The Oilers and Canucks have split the last 10 matchups here in Edmonton with 5 wins apiece. But we all know who got the last laugh in the playoffs. Let's go Oilers!
We do know who got the last laugh in the playoffs, Lehman.
Oh, those are awesome. The camera work is just something we have to look into because we might need to bring them on board at Oilers Nation. I think it's amazing stuff. I love these videos. They seem to get better every time we do them.
Yeah, shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford. Shout out to Giant Mike as well. All right, let's wrap up the show with our keys to victory for our friends at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, right in the heart of Sherwood Park. Whether it's hitting the water, hitting the waves, hitting the trails, Sherwood Power Sports and Marine can do it all for you. Home of the $50 biweekly ATV, $105 biweekly boat. Liam, what do you got for a key to victory tonight?
I've been thinking about this one for the last 51 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm going to say the Oilers, this might sound weird, but they let their emotions kind of guide them tonight in like a positive way, in the sense of like, be physical, like don't be afraid to engage in stuff, like kind of bully the Vancouver Canucks a little bit. And I think they can really take over the game with their attitude if they allow that to happen. So that's mine, is just try and bully them, because they'll try and do it to you otherwise.
Yeah. Also, Lance is in. At my work, when I stand around talking about the Oilers, I get in trouble. It's the beauty of working at Sherwood Ford the Giant or Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. They're hockey fans helping hockey fans. My key to victory, Liam, I had Lil Bro them. Make him feel like the little brother in this matchup. You know, maybe you let him beat you once and you let it get close, but then when they get a little bit too mouthy and they start feeling a little bit too high, you kind of show them who's boss. And I want the Oilers to do that tonight. If the Canucks are going to come at you swinging their fists, you can just kind of hold them away. Just say, all right, that's great that you're angry, and then go score 5 on them and beat them 5-1 tonight. Like, that would be the dream, is just the Oilers go and absolutely blow out the Vancouver Canucks. And while they can sit there and go, Garland's public enemy number 1 and this and that, blah, 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 the Oilers can sit there and go, oh, we're in a playoff spot. So, yeah. Lil Bro the Canucks tonight. That's my key to victory.
If the Oilers win, do Vegas play today? I would assume so. It is Thursday. Most teams play Thursday, right? If the Oilers win and the Golden Knights lose to the Blues, the Oilers will take over sole possession of first in the Pacific Division.
Ooh, would that ever be something? Just a reminder, that game, Oilers, Golden Knights, coming up in April, could very well be for the division. And you, yes, you, watching this show, even you, Liam, could be in attendance for that game with our Nation Vacation. NationGear.ca. I think we're like over 70% sold on this bad boy now, which is awesome. Your flights, your hotel, transportation to and from the airport in Vegas, access to a stadium swim with our friends at Circa. It's all covered in the package. This is based on double occupancy as well. March 30th to April 2nd. We're also going to be in the Stella Artois Lounge, which gets you your beer, your wine, and your food included when you buy into this trip. And if you looked at the state of the Canadian dollar, and you can go online and look up how expensive beer and wine is at a Golden Knights game, this package is very, very worth it. Go look at how much a night at Circa Stadium Swim is as well. This is a good deal, a great package, all possible because of our friends at Flair Airlines and our friends at Circa Stadium or Circa Las Vegas. It's going to be a good trip, man. NationGear.ca. You are not going to want to miss out. Liam, I'm off to Jasper. Tomorrow we'll be back. Jason Demers was going to join today, had something pop up. He's locked in for his usual Friday, though. So JD will be swinging by, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Lovely. We'll have a great time.
We didn't have Demers on earlier this week, right?
No, we had him early last week.
It wasn't early this week.
No, because we had Louis. We talked about everything. No, we have not had Jason on. I have a good question for him, actually. Should I tease it with you right now?
Sure.
I saw this one yesterday on a soccer podcast I listened to, and I think it could work. Who is one player from your rival team, so when he was on the Sharks, who he would bring onto the Sharks to improve them? Okay. You know what I mean?
I think I follow.
Yeah, like who's one player you would have taken from the Anaheim Ducks, I guess, or the LA Kings, and put them on the Sharks to help you kind of get over the hump?
Yeah. Okay.
You don't like it. You don't like that one.
Well, it's just confusing to me.
Why?
So you're basically asking him, like, who was one player he hated playing against and would have rather had on his team?
No, like one player who would have helped you win. It doesn't not about hating you play against. It's like who would be one guy who can help you win, or you didn't. I guess you didn't want to play against, but yeah, who would have made your team better?
Okay, sure. We'll see what JD's
Straightforward.
answers, I guess. We didn't do our Sports Closet gift card giveaway. Should we save it for tomorrow? No, we have 5 minutes.
We can do it.
Okay, we can
Who's
do
one
it.
player you would take from the Flames and put on you?
No. Let's do. I mean, it's kind of our thing now, but first 5 people to comment a player, a unique player who played for both the Oilers and the Canucks, gets entered into the draw, and we'll get the prize wheel all fired up. Aaron, I'll star them as they come in. But again, comment a player, played for both the Oilers and Canucks. There's one from Zach. I guess McIndry gets it with that one. Lance is in. There is number 3. Chase on from Ryan is 4. Rian is 4. And Riley gets named number 5. So Aaron then got in there. Zach, McIndry, Lance, Ryan, Rihan. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And Riley are in. So those are our 5 there. Aaron will get the wheel nice and fired up here in a second for us, and we'll give away our $50 to Sports Closet. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca.
How did no one say Richard Backman?
That's who I would have said.
Yeah, tip of my tongue.
Spin the wheel, Aaron. Let's go. Who's going to win this bad boy?
There you go.
Cassian, which means it's Riley going home with the $50 Sports Closet gift card. Shout out to our boy Riley. Email me, Tyler@Oilersnation.com, and I will get you all hooked up with our friends at the Sports Closet and the gift card. Everybody, enjoy the game tonight. Aaron is live, 6 o'clock, pre-gaming with Boardsy, post-game immediately following the show, and then we'll be right back here tomorrow at noon Mountain Time. Chat with you then, and oil up.
Thank you for watching Oilers Nation Every Day. Hit the subscribe button to never miss a show. And for more, visit Oilersnation.com.